Welcome to another episode of China Update, where I provide you guys with the most up-to-date political, economic and geostrategic analysis on the world's number 2 economy. My name is Tony. Let's jump in. Okay, happy Wednesday everybody. First up, the Chinese economy. And Chinese imports of Russian energy has greatly increased, with the month of May seeing a record quantity of crude oil, more than double the amount a year ago, and Russia passing Saudi Arabia as China's top crude supplier, according to customs data released on Monday. Of course, due to the Ukraine war, Russia has lost European customers, and with the lifting of restrictions over Shanghai, Chinese demand has also increased. In isolated, Moscow has a good customer in Beijing, with total imports from Russia surging 80% year on year to over $10 billion in the month. Some analysts argue that China may be shifting its buying towards Russia to indirectly support Moscow, pointing out, for example, that Russian liquefied natural gas sales to China rose 54% last month, despite a 28% decline in Chinese consumption across the board for the fuel. Now, while we're talking about Russia and China, let's stay in the north of the country. Jilin, a city in the northeast, just a few hours from North Korea, in the province of the same name, has implemented a so-called silent management policy for at least 3 days, barring all of its 3.6 million residents from leaving their residential communities unless necessary, after the discovery of just a single COVID-19 case. Moving from the north to the south of the country, while we're on this theme, as we discussed yesterday, the Macau Special Administrative Region has also implemented a lockdown and a 2-day mass testing campaign for its 600,000 strong population. Officials fear a spread of Omicron into mainland China towards China's critically important Pearl River Delta, where extended lockdowns could be as economically devastating as the Shanghai lockdowns were for the Yangtze River Delta. Now let's end on the economy, this part on the economy, with a spot of optimistic news. Yesterday, the Civil Aviation Administration of China announced that it intends on opening up more international flights, with plans to increase flights to and from Vietnam and Thailand, according to Chinese financial media, a sign of modest and perhaps promising easing of some of the world's strictest borders. China's crisis-hit aviation industry has been lobbying heavily for easing in order to save the sector from expensive collapse. Quote, "The restrictions have pushed the nation's aviation industry to the brink. Some Chinese airlines are facing a risk of insolvency, with mainland-based carriers reporting a collective 67 billion yuan, $10 billion loss for last year. At the end of 2021, Chinese airlines were operating 279 international routes, 70.7% less than 2019 before the pandemic, and they completed 1.48 million passenger trips, equivalent to 2% of the total in 2019, according to the CAAC. Hey guys, if you appreciate what I'm trying to provide here with the channel and you would like to help keep it sustainable, Patreon, buy me a coffee, which is a great way to give a one-off tip. All crypto links are in the description below. And if you're enjoying the video, don't forget to hit that like button. Thank you so much everybody, as always, for the ongoing support. As I'm sure many of you guys know, food security is a real concern globally this year. And as we have seen in recent weeks, China's State Council is concerned too. Indeed, Premier Li Keqiang, who heads the State Council, undertook a special tour of Dian in the northern province of Hebei to, quote, stress efforts to ensure that grains are harvested in time and stored in good conditions, end quote, saying, quote, everyone should work hard to make sure we hold tight the rice bowls of 1.4 billion Chinese people, end quote, according to state media. Power was another message. At a thermal power company in Zhuozhou, the premier said that, quote, efforts should be made to tap the production capacity of coal to further enhance the power supply, end quote. The premier said that both food and energy security needed to be ensured while the government balances controlling COVID-19 and economic growth, a message which he has maintained for weeks now, though it is in conflict somewhat with the Politburo Standing Committee's directive that zero COVID represents the highest political struggle within the party. Meanwhile, the heaviest rainfall in decades in southern China has not helped with food security concerns. Flooding in the south of the country, swelling waterways in the low-lying Pearl River Basin in recent days has forced the evacuation of hundreds of thousands of people. According to China's National Meteorological Center, the average rainfall in the 3 southern provinces of Guangdong, Guangdong, Fujian, and Guangxi between early May and the middle of June reached 621 millimeters, the highest since 1961. Further north, Jiangxi province has also issued a red alert for flooding, the highest level of alert. Local authorities in Guangdong, China's manufacturing hub, said on Monday more than 200,000 people have been evacuated in the province so far, with tri-provincial evacuees numbering near 500,000 according to state media. Then late on Tuesday, last night, Guangdong province raised its flood control emergency response to its highest level, ordering areas at risk to take necessary measures, including evacuations. Analysts warn that the flooding will affect production of grain, vegetables, and pigs, and push up domestic food inflation. Now, speaking of food, on Monday evening, Chinese property developer Central China Real Estate Limited, the country's 37th largest builder, announced an offer to pay farmers up to 160,000 yuan, $24,000 for their wheat to offset down payments for homes at a local residential project in Henan province. The same developer earlier this month offered to accept garlic down payments for another project in Kaifeng, ancient capital city of the northern Song, also in Henan province. In a healthy market, this would look like a quirky marketing gimmick from a provincial housing developer. However, in the current housing environment, firms accepting wheat and garlic as down payments for new homes looks like an act of desperation from a crisis-hit industry. The developer, which recently sought state support when its parent company agreed to sell a stake to the provincial government, is also essentially speculating in a sector in which it has very little experience, offering 4 yuan or RMB a kilogram for wheat, over 30% more than the record prices already seen for the commodity this week. Its price for garlic was almost 50% higher than the wholesale price. This promotion from this developer will end on the 10th of July. Meanwhile, our old friend China Evergrande Group is back in the news. The debt-ridden property developer, which rocked global bond markets when it missed payment on a $260 million bond last year, reaffirmed through a Monday filing that a debt restructuring plan will be released by the end of next month. Despite this, bondholders are not optimistic that they will see their repayments, with one offshore bondholder expressing to Bloomberg's Hong Kong team yesterday, quote, "Since the crisis broke out, the value of Evergrande's assets have kept falling, while its debt interest has kept rolling over every day." End quote. Evergrande owes over $22 billion in offshore bonds, including $19.4 billion of dollar bonds issued by itself or an overseas unit. Trading of shares in Evergrande was suspended back in March in Hong Kong. The developer said in an exchange filing yesterday that it had until September 20th, 2023 to resume trading its shares in Hong Kong. It will need to meet a series of conditions, including publishing an independent investigation into its property services unit and demonstrating it has sufficient assets to operate. Okay, that is today's episode, everybody. Thank you so much. I'll see you tomorrow.